Marion McAllister is another first-timer who, as much as anyone in this race, reflects what running is all about. Well away from the Gold Coast's crowded marathon route, a sweep of quiet leads to Cowra in the Central Tablelands of New South Wales. It is here that long before the sitting of the court, a 53-year-old who knows the laws of the land prefers to be at one with the lay of the land.
I used to think people who did that sort of stuff were really tragic and, you know, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that? But I discovered after I started running that it makes you really feel good. Getting that cold air into your lungs when you know, otherwise you'd be lying in bed going, oh, I don't want to get up. Yeah, it is good for you.
Marion has only taken to running in recent years. Now she is hooked. A 3-kilometre circuit on her property is evidence of a hobby that has turned into a love.
I didn't think I'd really like running, but I do. You know, I'm getting on a bit, I'm 53, and it makes your body feel a lot better than it had been before. All those bits that were heading downwards start to sort of feel a lot more firm. And yeah, and you feel you can walk upstairs, you can walk faster than a lot of other people. A lot of people remark on how much better you look and feel. You know, people say, oh, you look good, you know, you're wide awake. And I didn't have that before.
With her dogs Buffhead, Miner and Joker leading the way, Marion beats the sun up 5 mornings a week.
Well, it's just natural for me to run here, obviously, because I'd have to get in the car and drive somewhere if I didn't run here, and I've got a bit of space. So I've just worked out a bit of a running track where I just run around in it's a fairly undulating track, which is good.
And then it's on to work.
Morning, Jess. Morning.
An office greeting is common enough, but there is a much more unusual side to Marion's job. Marion, who practices under her maiden name, has been a solicitor for more than 20 years. Her journey to this point filled with the broad experiences of life.
Before I was studying law, I'd been working in a nursing home in Central Queensland as a cook and a laundry person. And before that, I'd worked in a film laboratory, been a cab driver, and I also worked at the ABC for a short period being a film editing assistant, which I really enjoyed. And I worked on the railways for about 1.5 years, carrying pots of tea up and down corridors in trains.
As her diverse track through life suggests, Marion is comfortable expecting the unexpected. She could never have known she would have taken to running after first being pushed to join her 3 kids in Sydney's famous City to Surf.
I think actually perhaps Mum first started to run to try and beat me, because I did the City to Surf one year and me and my sister Kate ran and Mum walked with Ella. But then the year after that she ran to try and beat my time. And she did all right. The first year I beat her by 1 minute and then she beat me the next year, I think.
Now, in a case of like mother, like son, there is another twist, but we'll come to that later. Right from the start of the men's race, the Kenyans have been the ones to beat. Nicholas Manza and Albert Matabor are both in a distinguished class. They have clocked sub 2 hour 10 times this year. Approaching the 25-kilometre mark, the Kenyan pair makes a move and earns a 10-second buffer. It is too early to know how decisive this is, but the action immediately puts added pressure on the chasers, including Japhet Kipkorir, Taigo Ito and Ethiopia's Alamayu Shumir. At the same point in the women's, Ethiopia's Goitetem Tassima is a runaway leader with a 7-minute advantage. she signals for her countryman, Welda Georgis, to catch up and help her maintain her pace. Back in the field, Broken Hill runner Scott Shepherd has been joined by another first-timer, whose journey to this point had an unexpected beginning. At the start of the year, 37-year-old Michael Coburn wasn't planning to run the Gold Coast Airport Marathon. Then he was told by his recently married wife Kate that someone had entered him on his behalf. But who? The answer lay in Cowra. A certain dog-owning solicitor was the culprit, Marion McAllister, Michael's mother-in-law. They arrived at the Gold Coast Airport together. But will they stay that way during the race?
I've entered you in this competition, and I know you've always wanted to run a marathon, and I told about our story.
I talked to Kate about it after I'd put his name down. She said, "Oh, you better not tell him." And so I didn't.
He was really put on the spot.
I was, but I couldn't be happier that she's done it to me anyway, because it's given me that extra little bit of motivation to get out there and finally get off my bum and do it.
Michael has undertaken his journey amid the pace of a corporate lifestyle in Sydney. As a chief financial officer, he spends long hours behind a desk, but a nearby stockpile reminds him his outdoor life is never far away.
Grew up playing sport, mainly AFL. I played water polo, swimming. Always been pretty active, and then when I gave all competitive sport up, that's when I basically got into running.
Bondi Beach, a stirring setting, even when slugging out marathon training before dawn.
Running around those cliffs, and it's incredibly rewarding, I think, getting there, going for long runs, finishing it, and just sitting back and reflecting and being in the outdoors. I live in Bondi, so after long runs, it's nice to just jump in the water and cool off.
Despite having his training interrupted when he cracked a rib a few months ago, Michael is still hoping to finish this race in about 4 hours. If he beats Marion, there won't be bragging rights, just a thank you. Many a marathon runner will tell you the race doesn't begin until the 30-kilometre mark. For the elite, it's the time the race can be won or lost. The pacemakers have finished their job, leaving Nicholas Manza and Albert Matabor holding a 25-second lead over Japhet Kipkorir, Alamea Shumir and Taigo Ito. It's almost certain the winner will come from this quintet. The leaders are still on race record pace, and the mind games have begun.
After the last moment when the pacemaker goes out, and then now you start looking at each other, testing the strength of one another. Even the physical structure can tell. You can see somebody at the highs, how he's breathing, the movement. You will judge somebody is maybe tired or still strong, and all that.
When I'm in 30K and I feel like a bit tired, and when I see the other athletes are like still strong and pushing, I try to remember how many kilometers I still have. I'll start counting by counting 5 kilometers, and then it's 7 kilometers left, and then I count the last 5 kilometers, and then the 2 kilometers, and then I say I am almost finishing.
For Australia's main hope, Triple Olympian Lee Troop, the chance of victory is gone. He is 2.5 minutes back in 8th spot. He fights on, a competitor renowned for challenging adversity.
To me, it's not really necessarily about the end result. You know, I think every race is definitely part of a journey that you go along, and I've run marathons with a stress fracture in my hip, stress fracture in my back. I ran it with a broken toe at the World Championships in 2003, and I still ran 2:11. You know, I ran Sydney with a torn stomach muscle, and I think they're the things that really epitomise me, that when it does get really, really tough, that I don't take the easy road, that I'll hang in there till the very, very end. And, you know, I do walk away still with my pride intact that I've completed the race that I had spent 16 to 20 weeks training for.